And we can start. Awesome. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming out to Starting a Creative Career in This Decade with Mable Truong today. We have lovely Mable here on the call with us, and actually we'll run through an agenda really briefly before we jump right into her workshop. So we'll begin just talking a little bit about us. We're coming to you as SB Creative Lab. And then, as I said, we'll move into Mabel's workshop, and that will be followed by a Q&A session. So as Mabel's talking about her experiences and starting a great conversation about what quarantine and how work from home will influence the creative industry, start thinking down, jotting some notes if you have questions about that, because that is the time for you to ask questions and get them answered. And following that, we'll just review some upcoming events with SB Creative Lab and also about our design challenges. And we'll end with a couple of Let's Connect plugs and just to get acclimated with the community. So really briefly about us, like I said, we are SB Creative Lab. We are a fairly new design organization here at UCSB. We started last fall, and basically it was a team of students who came together and said, we don't have a design major here at UCSB, but we're very passionate about the field and we want to help and teach and empower other students so they can learn more and get exposed to design disciplines. And so this club was born as a result of that. And the way we engage with our community is really through workshops like this one that you're attending right now, also holding a couple of design challenges, which I'll get into later in this presentation, and also some collaborations with industry professionals like Mable and others. And so we hope you stick through and also continue to engage with us. And really briefly about Mable. So Mable graduated from UCSB in 2019 as a Comm BA and also multimedia professional writing minor. During her time at UCSB, she dedicated her time to designing for UCSB Her Campus, the Bottom Line newspaper, and also Associated Students Creative Media Unit. She currently works at Disney TVA as a production associate and is also currently starting up her own creative side hustle with an Etsy sticker business. And so if you want to learn more, actually the best way for that is for me to turn the mic over to Mable and she can tell you more about herself.
Okay, so should I screen share starting right now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool. Let's see. I always have difficulties with technology, so, okay, sorry, that was, okay, there you go. So, oops, no, not share, present. No, it's lagging. Sorry, give me 1 second. Can this thumbnail hide? Okay. Please load. Okay.
We can see it. You're good.
Okay, cool. Cool. Okay, so hi, my name is Mable, and I'm going to be discussing starting a creative career in this decade. The reason why I wanted to make this presentation on the topic that I chose is because right now, so many people are feeling really down for quarantine, and a lot of people have reached out to me regarding connecting during quarantine and also how I ended up getting into the industry in such a tumultuous time, right? So during this pandemic, I've experienced like graduating and then going to internship and then full-time job at Disney. The whole ride itself was full of uncertainty. So I just wanted to ease some concerns that people may have as graduating students or maybe someone who has just graduated. So let's get on to it. It's not working. Okay. Okay, so who am I? I am a production associate at Disney TV Animation. I graduated with a BA in communication and a writing minor in multimedia track. So I just wanted to shout out to Professor Sora Pierre, who is with us today. I have so much to owe to that track just because it gave me so much experience in terms of understanding myself, my own brand. And actually to this day, I use the brand guide that we use or created in our track. But I'll go into that a little bit later. but most of my time spent at UCSB was being TBL business manager, senior layout editor, for her campus events director and associate student CMU graphic designer. So a lot of the things that I did were like nowhere near close to each other. It was more like I was trying to gather tools for my belt when I graduated and went into the workforce. So a lot of my titles consisted of I'm like a jack of all trades, but then I also recognized that that was like a master of none. Okay, so some of the things that I did was, for example, I did the iOS sticker pack that actually won Associate Student CMU Project of the Year. So that was like my baby. And then the Bottom Line newspaper, rebranding and restructuring that. And then the New York Times event coordinating. So I had a lot of different paths, like walking off that stage. I knew like that I wasn't sure what I was gonna do, but then I decided, yeah, I'll just do design. So I had like an internship kind of lined up for that, like walking off stage. But sorry. Okay, so as soon as I was done, I really wanted to sorry, can I double check something really quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Are you seeing what I'm seeing right now?
No,
or is
the
it...
screen is still loading.
Oh no.
If you're still having issues with the slides, you could try downloading it as a PDF, and then we can run through it in the PDF form.
Yeah, let me just double check.
Oh, it's on.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that. So, okay, so basically, after I walked the stage, I was like, okay, cool, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But then before I even got the internship at the graphic design firm, I actually failed a lot of internships at Disney. Disney was my goal, my dream company. And the reason why is because I love the animation style for it. And I always wanted to be part of Disney. But as soon as I got those rejections, I just immediately just shut down. And I was like, you know, Disney is a dream for a lifetime. Like I can just come back to it later on. So I pursued my career in graphic design, thinking that what I had, the tools in my belt were applicable to this role, just because I could do the job. I was fine with doing the job. And I actually really liked doing the job. I worked with really great clients. And 2 months later, a recruiter from Disney actually contacted me and they said that my resume was on file. And so there was something that I wanted to bring up for that for people who are interested in the Disney internship program. It's that if you do apply, like I recommend not mass applying, just because recruiters look at your resume and it's rotated. So if you apply for like 50 internships, they're gonna know that you're just trying to take what you can get. And this was the situation for me. I applied to over 30, but then I do feel that my skill set was a good fit for a lot of the roles. That's why I decided to apply for that many. But in the end, I did get rejected from most of them. So I just want to preface this that I did not get into the internship easily at all. So that's what happened. 2 months later, I ended up going into ABC internship as entertainment marketing intern starting September 28, 2019. It was set for 3 months. And so that for those 3 months, like I worked really hard, and then they extended my internship 2 months. During this time, I was able to be in the thick of show business. So what happened was I was able to attend red carpet premieres. I met like The Bachelor, I met Peter, which is pretty cool. I was starstruck like every day. Like I would walk down the halls. And then one time actually, like I was walking past a really pretty girl and I was like, oh my gosh, she looks like Katy Perry. And then I went to the meeting and they were like, oh, did you see Katy Perry? And I was like, oh my gosh. But things like that, it was so amazing. But then for some reason I felt like that wasn't something that I really wanted to do. It was something that I I knew that I could do. It was this feeling again that I was like, I knew I can do this, but then is it something I wanted to do? So during this time, like the uncertainty of traditional TV and like the rise of streaming came upon us, right? So during my internship, Disney Plus was just starting. They just launched Disney Plus. This was like November. So it was really interesting to be on campus to see how everyone was celebrating Disney Plus, and then everyone at ABC being super nervous because we're traditional TV, ratings and stuff like we're getting for like actual divisions we're getting furloughed just because we don't really count on ratings anymore. It's really social media based. It's really streaming based now. So I was starting to think, okay, if 5 years from now I'm not sure what I want to do, then why don't I just do what I really want to do, like the reach dream, which is going to animation. So to preface this, every morning, the ABC building is right across that hat. If you guys pass Burbank or anything, you would see that really pretty Fantasia hat. It's right across the ABC building. So every morning I would just go to work and see that hat. And then I would hear rumors like, oh, it's like such a magical place and like no one can go in. It's like limited access. And like I just kept thinking like, wow, it'd be so cool to work in animation. So like I started thinking back to like my sophomore year in college when I was like a key animator before TBL, before her campus, before everything. Like when I had no worries, I was just doing what I loved. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna cold email two producers that I really love the shows of. And that was Jan Hirota, who was the producer of Big Hero 6, the series, and currently The Proud Family. And then the second one is Tara, my current boss, who is a producer of Amphibia. So I reached out to these two people, cold email. Luckily for me, I'm an intern, so they respond to cold emails, right? That's your upper hand when you get an internship. So they responded, and the one question I asked them was, is it possible for me to get into animation, like just with my background? And the short answer was yes, because anyone can get into animation without the art degree. You can get into animation. There are a lot of artists that I work with that do not have an art degree, and their works are beautiful. So I genuinely do not think you need an art degree to get to where you want to be, because I know a lot of people in SB Creative Lab are people who are doing this kind of as a side, just for fun. But I do think that if you ever consider becoming any creative career, I don't think you need a degree because everything is accessible online. So basically, after my internship came to an end, pandemic hits, quarantine hits, social distancing happens, and Animal Crossing is released. And of course, I'm enjoying my life because I have unemployment insurance. So I have nothing to do with my time except play Animal Crossing. But with that being said, I needed to go back to what I really loved. I needed to go back to illustration and like animation. I just really needed the self-discovery phase after talking to the two producers. And I was like, maybe I can do animation. Maybe I can just trust my gut. So what I did was I picked up my Apple Pen again and I started to draw. And what happened here was I noticed the rise of solopreneurship, which is really weird because in quarantine, everyone just suddenly started opening Etsy shops. And I think to me, how I saw it was that a community was slowly starting to brew within my age group, sticker making, like fan art, like communities and pop culture. It was all blending together into one thing. So then I made Animal Crossing stickers, and that actually took off on Twitter. And so that's how my Etsy shop took off as well. I no longer have those stickers. I started focusing on my own art. So as you can see, it's like my own branded themed art. You can see the color palette that the brand guide I had before that I designed in senior year of was it UCSB? Yeah, senior year of college. I designed that brand guide, and I followed that color palette strictly. So you can kind of see that showing up in this here. This is like an art versus artist tag for those who do illustration. You might know that. But I ended up making a brand of my own. So like 2 months after I developed my Etsy shop through fan art, I was like, you know what? No more fan art. I'm just going to do it for myself. So I did keychains that were like resonating with me, for example, like based off of the style guide I made in in my multimedia track, I made a character for matcha tea. So it's like cafe based, and then like watercolor and peace, serenity based things. I like to say that my brand is more so like yokai, or like not yokai. That's a Japanese term. It's like Japanese spirits and magical girl, if you guys know. If you know, then you know. But that was basically my brand moving forward. And what I did was I hopped on the train for studio vlogs as well. So if you were ever interested in how I got started, it was almost around exactly the same time I got my Disney job, at the same time as well. I did, yeah, I did a lot of, you know, self-discovery, branding during that time. So I'm so glad I recorded everything. I actually started vlogging right when the pandemic hit. It was like, my first vlog was like, oh, the mall during the Corona scare or something like that. I took that off because I feel like that's sensitive now, but I just feel like I started vlogging at the right time because I wanted to document my development and also get involved in the community that was growing immensely. And so the ones that started around the same time as me, the YouTubers that started around the same time as me, also started the shops around the same time as me. I didn't fully commit like they did, but at this point of time, we started at the same rate, and now they're at like 10,000K subscribers. So that just goes to show how big the community was growing during the pandemic, and how big social media played in a part of it in advertising your own brand. So with the whole topic of uncertainty, when people are like, oh, everything is so uncertain right now, I don't even know what to do. Like I suggest, I would say right now is the best time to build your own brand. And I say that because there are so many examples to follow right now. And when you're in quarantine, you can't help but think about uncertainty. So why not just make it certain and just work on a project that you can put in your portfolio. And I was just saying like how 2020 is a really great excuse for people who cannot find a job right now, because it's really inevitable. So I do think that during this time, it's kind of like a ray of light. I'm trying to emphasize that you can do something during this time despite all the hardships outside, because social media is growing and traditional media is going down. So that is my point for that. So basically what happened was that I ended up getting contacted for a dream job that I didn't know existed. And this is called the hidden job market. So Tara, the former producer, or actually the current producer and the former producer at the time, she was on maternity leave. She contacts me and she's like, hey, so I remember our conversation, like I was wondering if you were interested in this production associate position at Amphibia. And oh my God, I cannot tell you how excited I was, because Amphibia is basically, it's like you go into another world animation kind of genre. And I love that type of genre. And it's like really pretty. And it's like I explained it as like the Pokemon mushroom forest kind of thing, kind of vibe. So I was really happy. And I just wanted to emphasize that the hidden job market is a really big thing in the entertainment industry. And I think especially after the pandemic, this will persist even more, just because what happens is that people hire from within their group first before it is put on the internet. And how people connect or do coffee dates and stuff, I feel like is not taught in school. And I feel I had to learn that coming out of college. Like in my internship at Disney, I can tell like certain interns, the way they presented themselves during coffee dates was way too formal. And I think that in this industry, the best way to connect with someone is let them know what you want, because they are sitting there with you, and they, like me being on the other side of the table, I want to know how I can help you, not having me categorize you. So it gets over that hurdle of like, okay, so what should I do with this whole list? Like, can you look at my resume and tell me what I can do? And I'm like, I cannot tell you what to do. You need to tell me what I can do for you, right? So I feel like the more successful interactions are, for example, what I said was, I think I would be a good fit for production associate because all of my skills that I have are transferable skills. Scheduling, documenting, like being organized, event planning, everything. It all falls under this category. So I let them know that, and I asked them specifically, oh, is this possible? Like, I do feel like I can bring these skill sets. And I think that's what stuck with Tara. And she reached out to me and I got the job. So what happens when I get the job in a pandemic? So it's a work from home experience, full on. I never met any of my coworkers. They were all on Zoom. I probably never even seen some of their faces because in the animation industry, everyone's a little bit shyer. But I do think that work from home will have its consequences post pandemic. And the reason why is because people realize they don't have to be in LA anymore for the entertainment industry. And that is a really big thing that I think our current industry is discussing, is that if we no longer need to be in LA for entertainment, then that opens a whole competitive market for the whole world. So we're hiring people from England, we're hiring people from Israel, we're hiring people from all over the world, and that means you're competing with them. And so that's why I say it's like a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because you don't have to work in LA. You don't have to pay that high rent. You don't have to pay that cost of living. But it's a curse because you're put up against the rest of the world, right? So I think that is our cue to really better our skill sets. And if I want to give more practical advice, that is to learn Photoshop. I feel like Photoshop, people take Photoshop and they think they have to do everything with it. They think they have to know photo manipulation, photo editing, like the really bizarre things. But honestly, all you need to know is the crop tool, the selection tool, the erase tool, the line tool, the pen tool, the basics. Something like the text tool, probably the text tool. But then I do feel like if you know that skill set, it automatically bumps you up in the pool, because for some reason, not a lot of people know how to use it. And when I was at ABC, I think that really put me up there, like that design background, because whenever they needed content to put on social media, they'd be like, oh, hey, Mabel, can you make this social media graphic? And I'm like, yeah, I've done it for her campus. Oh yeah, I've done it for social media marketing. I do all the time. But I took it for granted because I was like, yeah, like I could do this. Like I thought everyone could do this, but that's actually a skill that not everyone knows. So I really recommend anyone who wants to get into the entertainment industry to really hone in on that skill, specifically Photoshop, Illustrator, not really, InDesign, not really, just Photoshop. But yeah, so what I would have wanted to hear as a new grad is that you don't need to know what you want to do now. When I graduated, I really didn't know what I was going to do. I just had a goal company, and I just really was so unsure. And during that time, like, I just trusted my gut, and that was the best decision I could make. If you're lucky enough to be at a crossroads between two opportunities, one opportunity being less prestigious, but then more fulfilling, and the other opportunity being very prestigious, but less fulfilling, I would go with the less prestigious one and more fulfilling one, just because after quarantine, when you do coffee dates or when you do like interviews, you could use that as a story if you could talk extensively about it, versus if you just have like a good name on your resume. I think it says less. It says more about your personality. It says more about your values as a person if you go with that opportunity that you can really sell about yourself. And that is one of the main differences I see and I take away from people I meet up with who ask me to just hang out, or just like as a coffee date, asking me for advice. And that's really what stands out, is I can see passion versus script. But I want to just say, like, move forward with no regrets. Go with your gut. There's always a good story that comes with that. But if you are still in UCSB right now and you are graduating next year, or you still have a year left, fulfill all those regrets before you like think about it. But then if you do have regrets from post or before grad and then after grad, just don't make that choice again. Like, just live without regrets. And I think that's like what I live by. And it's really like carried me throughout this whole time, this whole journey. And I can't believe this all happened within 1 year's time. But yeah, so that is the conclusion of my presentation. I'm so sorry about the weird glitching. Like, I'm so paranoid about my internet. But you can find me here on these Instagram page, like on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. These are my creative handles. I'm not as active on YouTube anymore, but I'm trying to be more active. But it does document like my whole journey, starting from when I started at the very beginning, which is the most important part. But yeah, like I hope we get to meet someday. Like I don't know, like I really crave human interaction nowadays. So even presenting to like a virtual room, I really wish I got to present it in front of people like at the beginning of the year or something. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'm gonna pass it on to Esther. I didn't see any chat, so I just was staring at a screen. So I don't know what's going on. But
Awesome.
if you want to take over, Esther.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm. Should I stop screen sharing, or?
You can actually leave it up and people
Okay.
can check out your handles. So
Okay, cool.
I'm looking through the chat, and actually I don't think any questions came up, but you had a
Okay.
lot of compliments about the different projects you've taken on and your experiences throughout everything, namely the AS sticker pack that you
Oh,
created.
yeah.
Also, your Instagram Etsy shop content is also very highly praised.
Oh, thank you. I worked really hard.
Oh, we have our first question from Joyce. And she's
Yay.
asking, any tips on opening an Etsy shop and creating your own products?
Yes. When you start your own Etsy shop, consider packaging. So that was one of the things that I struggle with the most. Before you even open your Etsy shop, understand what you want to sell. I think the easiest thing to sell right now is stickers, just because you can use the program Procreate, and that is a really great program to do any vector. It's not vector art, it's pixel, but then it turns out really good quality. I think you could convert it to vector, but those typically that is a typically really good program to download. I think it's only about $30 for one-time pay. If you already have that, I suggest do not buy a Cricut cutter or like a silhouette machine which cuts stickers until after you made your like 500th sale or something. Like after you make enough to pay back for what you've lost. Because even though I'm more of a risk taker, I feel like a lot of sticker shops or a lot of Etsy shops go a long way with just manual cutting and testing the water. So there's much less risk testing certain designs versus, like mass producing one design that doesn't do too well. But yeah, I think definitely packaging, making sure it's a product that you can afford packaging. Like for example, certain items are heavier than others. Stickers are only like a stamp, but then acrylic charms are about $4 when you ship it, and then you don't want to charge too much for that shipping. So just understanding what your customer, what age group they are, what financial situation they're in, and like, yeah. So that's my take on Etsy shop stuff.
Great. We have another question from Bria, and they're asking, do you see yourself moving away from LA because of at-home jobs?
Oh my gosh, I think about this all the time, but I really, okay, if I don't have to stay in LA, I won't, because I feel like if it weren't for the entertainment industry, which is why I know that I'm so privileged to be living here with my parents and everything, because I know that a lot of people can't do that. But if the entertainment industry does end up not having to be entirely in LA, I do think that I would be very happy to be like in another state or something. I haven't traveled outside of this country ever. So that's definitely something I want to try at least once in my life, living internationally. So if that flexibility allows me to do so, then I can do that. Also, I do want to point out that with this whole globalization, this whole working from home thing, I do think that certain companies from other countries will start collaborating more. So that's super exciting. I know Netflix does that already, but yeah, I'm pretty excited for the future of animation. So it's only going to go up from here. I don't think it's going to go down for anyone who's concerned about traditional media completely dying. I was from the newspaper. I totally understand that print was a dying form of media as well. All you have to do is adapt to the times, right? Like the media can die, but you just need to adapt your skill set to the times and match what how everyone's getting news now, or match exactly how people are advertising now. I know social media is the new advertiser, and I know TV is no longer really necessary to get news out there. But yeah.
Great. We have another question about the Etsy shop. Kiana's asking, did you build a brand before selling stickers, and how did you know it'd sell?
I did. So like I said, during my multimedia track, the whole, like, I feel like the way it was structured was really good because um, I don't know if you're from the multimedia track as well, but Professor Sorup here had these self-defining projects or workshops where you just kind of sit down and like understand what you like. So I spent almost 2 years thinking about it prior to doing like my actual brand. So I wish I could show you guys. I actually have my mood board from UCSB like taped on my wall right there. So every time I look at it, I know not to go away from that aesthetic, because I do feel like style is a really big thing that carries an artist. It's your own voice. And if you do too many styles, then that just goes to show you're still learning, you're pretty amateur. So it's like, it's still great if you copy other people's styles, but eventually you want to develop your own. So my advice for that is that, yes, I did start my Etsy shop with a brand in mind. And I didn't start it until I had a brand in mind, but I still occasionally went off that palette if I ever felt that there was going to be a product that was better without that palette, and I would just try it, which is goes back to that risk taking factor. Like, if there's less risk, if you had spent more money and more time doing a lot of like smaller projects and then trying them out and testing the waters, I think that's more beneficial in the long run than just fully committing to one design. So my first design, I wish I had it set up here, but my first design was a sticker design, or it was like a Animal Crossing design, because I just wanted to draw it and I just wanted to like communicate with community. I originally wanted to be part of conventions, so I couldn't do that, so I opened an Etsy shop. But yeah, like I just happened to step on a landmine because Animal Crossing was so popular during that time, and that's how a lot of people discovered me. So that was another thing that I feel like really helped me. Just drawing other people's work, not necessarily claiming as your own, but more like copying their style. Try to practice their style. Like, that's exactly how I came up with my palette. I collected all the artists that I really loved, and then I just noticed that the palette they used was only in the warm tone palettes, and they had pink hues in them. So that's how I got my color palette. And I still use that to this day because I really identify with it now. So that's all I use. But yeah, a long answer to that question is, yeah, I did think about it a lot, and I do think that people should think about it more than just copy certain styles, because then that's when you're genuinely fulfilled in doing what you like.
Great answer.
Yes.
Moving forward to more of your professional life, let's see. How important is work culture to you? And what is the work culture at Disney like?
Okay, work culture is so important to me, which is why I'm really sad that we are not able to do it or like be in person. Right? That the water cooler talks, everything like that. Like, I treasure that so much. But the work culture at Disney, there's a difference between ABC and there's a difference between Disney TV animation. So if you want to work in media, social media, events planning, then you're going to be more business casual, more button up, more formal, definitely more corporate. So that is like any other office. Disney, ABC is the same thing. Um, it's a big company, it's a big network. I feel like that's appropriate. But Disney TVA, I feel like it's a whole nother culture, and it's a playground. It's like adults who forgot to grow up, basically. They are so inspired every single day, and being able to be surrounded by people who don't take anything seriously is so fun to me, because first of all, everyone's pretty young in the animation industry for some reason. That's because there's a lot of people hiring right now for freelancers, so they're all around my age, first of all, and then my bosses actually are around 30, and they're really young, and they're very, very relevant. So everything they talk about, I totally vibe with, and it's just that's why I feel like it's such a shame that I can't be in an office, because I feel like I'd really enjoy my time there, because you're just surrounded by artwork every single day, and that's like all I could ask for. So if that's something that you're interested in, like just based off of work culture, that's how work culture is at different sectors of Disney. It's very different. It really depends on where you land, but they were on an opposite spectrum, so I cannot answer that in a general term.
Moving a little bit back, sort of early career question, Emily is asking, what is your advice on beginning? Okay, maybe if I rephrase this, what is your advice for people who are just beginning to look for internship opportunities?
For internships, so I'm like going back to the depths of my mind. So start applying to internships in the spring. I don't know how it is now for pandemic, but I started applying for internships way, way early. And internships for big corporations like Disney take at least 3 months to get back to you. So like you won't hear anything for 3 months. And if you've already accepted another internship, like that's on you. So it's like, make sure to apply to the bigger corporations really early. Also, I think one thing someone always asks me is, are cover letters necessary? I would say no, just because I think I like a lot of recruiters I know, they don't really look at the cover letters as much, only when it's neck to neck with a candidate. And I feel like that's the only time they look at it. And I've been to the recruiter panels at Disney, and they've all said the same thing. You can turn in a cover letter, but just FYI, I don't think it's necessary. If you genuinely believe you're suited for the position, like you should probably put in a few words for a cover letter. But I do think that if you're on a time crunch, I know like internships are really hard to grab nowadays. Like I don't think it's super necessary. I think what is more important is a portfolio page, is a portfolio website, because then it shows you put that amount of time to learn and develop a project to really present yourself and really sell yourself. For internships also, I think that internships are more prominent in people. And what I mean by that is you need to connect with people, because sometimes people don't put the internships online. Like I applied to internships online, but I know a lot of people who got internships through people that didn't really want to put the internship online. So it's like if you have an organization you really like a local organization, I feel like that's a little bit more relevant. Then I would say reach out to them and be persistent, because persistence wins people over. Like I swear, it really does. Like I feel like people who constantly contact others, you start being like, I wonder why this guy is so persistent, you know? And then you start wondering, oh, okay, maybe I can help them out. Like they seem like genuine people. But yeah, I think that for internships, it's like definitely a hard one, just because right now it's so hard to get anything in person. So that is a whole nother obstacle that I cannot really explain, because I didn't really apply for internships during the pandemic, but hopefully it gets better in 2021.
Another great answer. We have another question from Ashley, and they're asking, throughout your journey as a creative, assumedly you've probably hit some lows and some highs. And so what were some strategies that you used to pull yourself up throughout the lows?
Okay, I'm gonna address the lows because I addressed most of the highs. Um, a lot of my lows were, so I'm like thinking back to when I first got rejected from Disney. There was a really promising one. It was a graphic design position at Disney, and that was solely what I thought I was going to do. I was going to do graphic design. I was going to be a graphic designer. I was going to make branding and product design. And when I didn't get it, after I went, like, I even commuted from Santa Barbara to LA for one night. And then I told my rideshare all about it. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to this interview. And then he was my rideshare back. So I had to tell him that I got rejected. But that was like, at that point, I was just so like dejected because I was so convinced I would get it. It was literally between two people. It was me and her. It was me and the other person. And I was on the Facebook page. I remember I was on the Facebook page for the internships, and I saw this girl. She posted, "Oh my gosh, I just got the internship offer for said internship," and that was the internship I interviewed for. And I just remember crying, like, because that was the last option. That was the last opportunity. Oops, sorry. That was the last opportunity for me before I graduated in like a month or so. And then after that, I remember that night I was just like applying to internships, like puffy eyed, like whatever, like I don't care anymore. And I feel like that was a really big low. But then but then the next day I snapped out of it, because my mentality is that every failure I've had up to this point, every rejection I've had up to this point led me to another better opportunity. And that has happened over and over again. And I don't know why. I think it's the universe helping me, but it's because you just really have to understand that your mentality will carry you the whole way. Because if you think negatively, if you're always in that negative space, you'll never pick yourself up and you'll never learn from your mistakes. You'll never be like, okay, it wasn't me. It was this circumstance. It was this situation. And for me, I convinced myself, okay, she had a bachelor's in graphic design. I didn't. I decided to do graphic design like way too late. So it's like, what I need to do now, I need to make my portfolio better. So that's exactly what I did. The next day, I just went onto my website, pulled up my HTML, and I started going at it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna make my portfolio the best. Like, I'm gonna make it better than hers. And then I applied to internships, and that's when I landed the graphic design job or graphic design position after college at HLG. And that was when I was able to work with big Fortune 500 companies on their projects and presentation designs and everything like that. So really, I think the biggest obstacle you need to get over is your mentality. And that's helped me so in so many ways that I cannot even imagine being super negative about anything. I'm super grateful about everything that has happened to me so far. So that's how I get through things.
We're nearing the end of the questions, but we have a question from Stephanie asking, are there any design opportunities that you would recommend that you could become involved with at UCSB?
Graphic design opportunities for UCSB. I use graphic design for literally everything. You can make graphic design work for everything. That's my personal opinion. I was at her campus as a publicity director. So whenever people couldn't make flyers, I would just do it. If we needed something to post for social media, I would just create a graphic really quick. That is another good way. If you want to hone in on your skill set, then I would say do little cute edits on your Instagram photos. Like I think that is a really good way to do, or really good way to, first of all, brand yourself, and also make relevant content or more usable content for content creators who want to go into social media. Um, and even for like the newspaper, I was able to do graphic design. I feel like graphic design is such a well-rounded skill set that it's really hard not to find it. But if you're talking about paid opportunities, I would say CMU. I was graphic designer at CMU. That is probably the best graphic design internship, or best graphic design experience you can get, because what you do is you work with all the organizations on campus, and a lot of people just come to you like a client, basically. So for graphic design, client work is they come to you and they ask for a certain set of skills, or they ask for a certain set of qualifications for a project. And what you would do is you would decipher, you would translate in art language to them what they told you. So you would take in what they want as a motive, and then you would translate it. That's exactly what CMU did. That's exactly what the AS graphic designers did. For example, like Zero Waste would come to us for Earth Day every year and ask, okay, so we have this concept for this whole event, and this is how event planning is tied to it too. This is why all three of my skill sets were so well merged together, because it was all like event planning and graphic design, and also everything was like together. But they would come to me, ask me to design like the Snapchat filter, the events flyers, the stickers, the merchandise, like everything. So if you really want to get into graphic design, I highly recommend you check out CMU, just because it really pushes you to the limits, and it really makes you think if this is something you want to do, especially if you're not used to client work. I know one thing that I did not like about graphic design. I remember this. When I used to take, oh my gosh, I am sorry about this. I'm going to stop screen sharing just so that it's not bothering people. But one thing that I took away from graphic design is that I didn't want to do commissions. And that was because, I'm so sorry, I'm going to stop screen sharing. That was because I didn't really like the client relationship with the designer. So if you haven't worked with clients before, it's kind of like you're the worker. So you kind of produce what they ask for. And a lot of the times the people asking are not very artistic, right? They tend to be people who are very demanding, and they don't know why you're charging so much for a freaking logo, right? They're like, why are you charging $50? You could do this in 5 minutes. And so I'm really not good with that. I'm really not good with talking to clients and being like, having to explain my work and understanding that I'm charging for its value and less of the time. Because if I was charging for the time, I'd be making like $10 an hour, right? Like if you're good at what you do, you could do it really fast. So I think that, with that being said, it's very like, I feel like you should try graphic design before you go into it, because sometimes client work is not for people, and that was me. I stopped taking commissions after that, and I stopped doing graphic design after that, because I realized I just felt so unfulfilled, and it just felt like revisions and revisions over and over again. Like I would just get back really, really shallow notes, like, oh, I think this color is like better with this color, and it's like the contrast is totally off. It's like two colors that are totally weird, and you have to explain yourself. It's like why those work. So it's an experience. You should definitely try it though.
I don't see any more questions in the chat, so I'll actually end on a question that I had. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
Oh, 5 years from now? My dream has always been to stay at Disney and just move up from there. My 5 years from now has changed so much since starting my job at TVA, because from a production associate, you can only go upward. You can only go to production coordinator and then production producer. So production is really different from illustration. And I realized that I want to keep those two separate. I want to keep my personal goals separate, my personal artwork separate, because I don't like to put monetization on it. Like commissions. That's why I brought that up, because I don't like to put money on that. And it's different for everyone. And I know, and I do think that my strong suit is in production. It's in managing people and it's in inspiring people. So I do think that in 5 years' time, hopefully, I will be at a coordinator position or assistant producer position, or maybe even a junior art director, because I feel like that has to do a lot with production. So in order to do that, like I need to really hone in on my skill set. So that is still all up in the air, but I'm so down to see what's going to happen next.
Thank you so much, Mabel. I think I will close the Q&A session for this portion and jump back into the slides. So I'll just run through the remaining slides really briefly for everyone, but our next upcoming event workshop-wise is in 2 weeks on Thursday at 6 p.m. We're actually going to be talking about visual identity system, which is something that Mabel really touched upon, that really has carried and translated even till today, which was her mood board. So if you're interested in how UCSB's visual identity system looks like, we're actually having one of the senior web designers who came up with this plan come and talk to us about it. So feel free to sign up for it. The tiny URL is there. I'm going to move through the slides a little quickly. So if you don't catch it, it's okay. We'll actually have all this information for you up online. And moving on, this is just a reminder. So last Thursday, we announced our design challenges for this quarter. And again, we have 2 of them. So the first one on top is a graphic design challenge. And so we're asking you to create a playlist cover out of a jazz playlist that we curated as a team. So you can challenge yourself to do that. Tiny URLs are also there. And the other second challenge we had is an editorial illustration challenge. So this is part of our illustration series. We're providing a couple of Santa Barbara Independent articles, and you can select out of those and take your pick. And it's sort of a challenge to see if you can create a visual that really drives the text. And so the challenge runs for a month long. If you missed the kickoff last week, that's totally okay. No worries about it. All the information is still up online and there's plenty of time for you to still participate. So we hope to see you participate there. Oops, sorry. Another thing is my slides are interactive. So once you post this online, you can actually directly click on these and it'll take you to the site with the info. And last but not least, please stay connected with us. So we have a lot of social media handles, but I just want to point out we use Slack most frequently for all our communication. So if you want to stay up to date with whatever events are still happening, please hop on there and join us so we keep you up to date with stuff. One thing that's not on the slide I will say is we actually just started a Discord for this winter quarter. And the hope there is, you know, we're in this quarantine like distance sort of weird situation and we can't really sit next to each other and make art together, but we want to try to bridge that gap with sort of quote unquote studio time where we can sit in a Discord call. And if you're working on art, maybe share that with each other or just work on art homework, whatever it may be. So information on that is also available on the Slack. So again, please join us there. And that's all we have planned for today. So thank you so much for coming out. I hope you enjoyed this workshop. Really huge round of applause for Mabel for taking the time to actually come out here and speak with us, answer some questions. And with that, that is the end of our workshop. So I hope you all have a great night and actually have a great long weekend.
Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Esther. Thanks, Mabel. So nice to see you.
Thank you, Madeline, for coming.
Well, it's a pleasure. I'm glad to hear it. I mean, it sounds like all is going well. So
yes, very well. Yes.
Good. All right, take care. Bye.
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 Yay.
Yay. Oh, let me stop recording real quick.